Hey, this is Dr. Marisa Snyder, and today I want to talk about stress because stress is a silent killer. It's insidious. And what I mean by it being insidious is that most of the time, you and we probably don't even know when we're feeling stressed. We don't recognize that there's a physiological impact that's happening in our body when we're running from a deadline, or we're late to work, or we forgot something, or we get a crazy text message, or whatever it is that drives the stress response system. Your body is just responding to your everyday, whatever's going on, and it has an impact on the body. Not only your reproductive hormones, but also your metabolic hormones, things like insulin and thyroid hormones, and even cortisol. All of that's playing a role in having a massive impact on your body. Now, for many, many years, I was addicted to stress. And I leveraged it every chance I could get. I would pull in that epinephrine and adrenaline, and I would use it to get through my day. I thought it was my slight edge. And I remember most of my 20s, I just burned through those years, leveraging as much stress as I could. I honestly thought it was my secret weapon. And it wasn't until I hit 30 years old that I started to really pay the price. I mean, I went from what I thought was like 100 all the way down to 0. I got hit with a Mack truck of no energy and massive chronic fatigue. And what I want to speak in today is that over time, whether we know it or not, we are probably responding at some level of rushing women syndrome. Now, I know that I'm mostly talking to women because that's who I speak to, it's who I connect with, it's who I serve every single day. And I remember thinking that I was this awesome superwoman, and little did I know that I was the poster girl for rushing women syndrome. Now, I want to just really quickly speak into what rushing women syndrome is, because it's a bigger part of the podcast episode I'm releasing today, which is how I overcame a stressaholic behavior attitude and turned to more peace. Now, it's not to say that I still don't get stuff done, because I absolutely do, but I knew that operating at that stressaholic level was only going to make me more and more sick. And honestly, at the age of 30 years old, I couldn't imagine getting any sicker than I was right then, waking up with literally zero to no energy, crawling on the floor, trying to get through my day with as much caffeine and sugar as possible. So when I talk about rushing women syndrome, it's literally that. We're just rushing from one thing to the next. And how you can really identify whether you're struggling with rushing women syndrome is if somebody asks you, hey, how is your day? And you respond to that question with, oh my gosh, I am so busy, or oh, I am feeling so stressed, then you are struggling with some rushing women syndrome. And really what that comes down to is that your day is dictated by calendars and to-do lists. It's constant obligations. You're running from here to there to everywhere. And sometimes you probably don't even know how your day began and how it even ended, or what's going on in the middle of it. And the repercussions or implications for something like rushing women syndrome end up things like unexplained weight gain, brain fog, moodiness, feeling irritable, anxiety is a huge one when it comes to rushing women syndrome, exhaustion, first in the middle of the day, maybe in the evening, but then eventually in the morning when you wake up, because your cortisol awakening response is just not functioning. Other things that you could be experiencing with rushing women syndrome is that you just feel like there's this overwhelm that's taking over. And so in today's podcast episode, I really get very vulnerable and I dive into what it looked like to blow through, 15 years of my life. And then when it finally came to a crashing halt, what it looked like to actually put the pieces together. One of the biggest drivers of my rushing women syndrome and my stressaholic behavior was that I had some serious limiting beliefs. I had some beliefs, core beliefs about who I was, core beliefs about how the world worked and how I needed to operate in it. And until I was able to address those core beliefs, I wasn't able to actually get better. I kept finding myself back on the floor over and over and over again, and wondering, like, why can't I green smoothie my way out of this? So if any of this resonates with you, if you're thinking to yourself, oh my goodness, I think I'm rushing around from here to there to everywhere, especially right now more than ever, I not only identify what's going on, but then I also share that first step that I took so that I could begin to heal my body. Because so often it's just that first step that can move us in the right direction, that can change everything. And really, for many of us, it's a non-negotiable. We've got to take that first step. So I'd love for you to listen to this new episode where I get pretty vulnerable about my personal addiction with stress, how I thought it was serving me for many years until it absolutely wasn't, and what I did to manage it. Because I will say this, that I would be lying to you if stress doesn't come into play for me, even today, especially being pregnant in my third trimester. But there's a lot of ways that I mitigate that on a day-to-day basis. And I'm really excited to share that with you because, each and every one of us, we've got our struggles, we've got our path, we've got the things that we need to do. But what if we could do that with a little bit more ease and grace? And that is what today's episode is all about. I hope you listen in.